Do you ever wonder if you are harming your automatic Nissan without knowing it? By actions you should have never even considered in the first place? Nissan has sold millions of vehicles equipped with their continuously variable transmission, and there is a very good reason why mechanics across the country have made a living rebuilding them. The truth is, most Nissan owners are unknowingly destroying their transmissions every single day. Not because they are bad drivers, but because nobody ever told them the rules. Today we are going to change that. I am going to walk you through everything you should never do in a Nissan automatic. Some of these mistakes will shock you. Others might explain why your vehicle has been acting strange lately. Stick around because by the end of this, you will know exactly how to protect your investment and avoid repair bills that can easily exceed $3,000. Let me start with the one thing that separates Nissan from almost every other manufacturer on the road. It is their continuously variable transmission. Unlike a traditional automatic that shifts through fixed gears, the continuously variable transmission uses a steel belt and two pulleys to create an infinite number of gear ratios. On paper, this sounds brilliant. In practice, it creates a set of problems that most drivers never see coming. The steel belt inside your Nissan continuously variable transmission is under constant stress. It is squeezed between two cone-shaped pulleys, and the pressure required to prevent slippage is immense. When something goes wrong with this system, you do not get a gentle warning. You get a complete failure. Here is what most Nissan owners never hear from their dealership. The transmission fluid in your continuously variable transmission is not like regular automatic transmission fluid. It is a specialized formula designed specifically for the unique demands of the belt and pulley system. Nissan calls it continuously variable transmission fluid, and using anything else is a guaranteed way to destroy your transmission. I have seen owners try to save a few dollars by using generic automatic transmission fluid. Within months, their transmission started slipping. Within a year, they were facing a rebuild. The fluid acts as both a lubricant and a friction modifier. When you use the wrong type, the belt cannot grip the pulleys properly. Slippage occurs, metal shavings contaminate the system, and suddenly you are looking at a repair bill of more than $4,000. Now here's where things get really interesting. Nissan recommends changing the continuously variable transmission fluid every 60,000 miles under normal driving conditions. But here's the secret mechanics know and dealerships rarely mention. If you live in a hot climate, do a lot of city driving, tow anything, or regularly drive in stop-and-go traffic, your fluid is degrading much faster than that schedule suggests. Heat is the #1 killer of continuously variable transmissions. Every time the fluid temperature climbs above 200 degrees, the chemical compounds begin to break down. The lubricating properties diminish, the friction modifiers stop working correctly, and your belt starts wearing against those pulleys instead of gliding smoothly between them. I had a customer bring in a 2018 Nissan Altima last year. Beautiful car, only 65,000 miles on it, but the transmission was shot. It turned out he never changed the fluid because the dealership told him it was a sealed unit and did not require maintenance. That is technically true in some cases, but sealed does not mean maintenance-free. It means Nissan made it harder to service, not that it never needs attention. His fluid was black as motor oil and smelled burned. The steel belt had started throwing microscopic metal particles throughout the entire system. By the time he felt the shuddering and hesitation, the damage was already done. He paid $3,800 for a rebuilt unit plus labor, all because he trusted bad advice about a sealed transmission. If you appreciate the value already provided, consider leaving a like on this video. Let me tell you about something called the continuously variable transmission cooler bypass. This is critical information that almost nobody talks about. Your Nissan has a transmission cooler, usually integrated with the radiator. The system includes a bypass valve that prevents cold fluid from circulating through the cooler until the transmission reaches operating temperature. The problem is that bypass can fail. When it does, your fluid either never gets cooled properly, or it takes forever to warm up in cold weather. Either situation is bad news. Overheating destroys the fluid chemistry, and running cold fluid through the system creates excessive drag and puts strain on the belt. If your transmission temperature gauge starts acting erratic, or if the vehicle feels sluggish when cold and never quite smooths out, that bypass valve could be the culprit. There is another Nissan-specific issue that deserves your attention. The torque converter in your continuously variable transmission is not like a traditional torque converter. It is a specialized unit designed to work with the belt-and-pulley system. When the torque converter starts to fail, it creates a shudder that many owners mistake for engine problems. They replace spark plugs, clean throttle bodies, and even swap ignition coils. Meanwhile, the real problem is metal debris from a worn torque converter contaminating the entire transmission. By the time the shuddering becomes obvious, you have already spread microscopic particles through the valve body, the pulleys, and every internal component. Diagnosing torque converter issues early can save you thousands. Ignoring them guarantees you will eventually need a complete transmission replacement. Now let me talk about something that applies to all automatic transmissions, but is especially critical in Nissans with continuously variable transmissions. Never shift from drive to reverse while the vehicle is still moving. I see this constantly. Someone backs out of a parking space, realizes they need to go forward, and immediately shifts directly into drive while the car is still rolling backward. In a traditional automatic, that puts stress on the planetary gears and can damage the parking pole. In a continuously variable transmission, you are asking the steel belt to instantly reverse direction while it is still being pulled the other way. The strain on the belt and pulleys is enormous. Do this enough times and you will create wear patterns that lead to slippage and eventually failure. Always come to a complete stop before changing directions. Your transmission will thank you. Here is another habit that is particularly dangerous for Nissan owners. Launching the vehicle hard from a stop is a common mistake. Some people love to punch the accelerator and feel that rush of power. But your continuously variable transmission is not designed for aggressive launches. When you floor the accelerator from a standstill, the pulleys have to squeeze the belt at maximum pressure to prevent slippage, while also trying to deliver maximum power to the wheels. This generates tremendous heat in a very short period of time. That heat degrades the transmission fluid, stresses the belt, and accelerates wear on the pulley surfaces. If you want performance driving, buy a vehicle with a traditional automatic transmission or a manual gearbox. Your Nissan continuously variable transmission is built for smooth, efficient modifying and operation. Treat it accordingly. Speaking of smooth operation, let me address the practice of coasting in neutral. Some drivers think they save fuel by dropping the transmission into neutral when going downhill or approaching a stoplight. In modern vehicles, this does nothing to improve fuel economy. When you coast in gear with your foot off the accelerator, the fuel injection system cuts fuel delivery to the engine. The wheels are actually turning the engine through the transmission. You are using zero fuel. When you shift into neutral, the engine has to idle, and fuel is injected to keep it running. So you are actually using more fuel, not less. Every time you shift back into drive while the vehicle is moving, you are asking the transmission to engage under load. In a continuously variable transmission, or CVT, this creates an unnecessary stress event that accumulates over time. There is also the matter of towing with your Nissan. Many owners assume that because their vehicle has a certain towing capacity listed in the manual, they can safely pull that weight without consequences. The reality is more complicated. Your continuously variable transmission generates significant heat under normal driving conditions. Add a trailer, a boat, or a loaded utility trailer, and that heat production goes through the roof. The transmission cooler can only dissipate so much heat. If you are climbing hills, driving in hot weather, or stuck in traffic while towing, you can easily push the fluid temperature into the danger zone. I recommend installing an auxiliary cooler if you plan to tow anything regularly. It is a few $100s that could save you thousands in transmission repairs down the road. Let me share something about the Nissan Juke continuously variable transmission fluid warmer that most people do not know exists. Some Nissan models equipped with the continuously variable transmission have a fluid warmer built into the system. This is designed to bring the fluid up to operating temperature more quickly in cold weather. The problem is, some owners in cold climates idle their vehicles for extended periods, thinking they are warming up the transmission. In reality, idling does very little to warm the transmission fluid. The fluid needs movement to circulate and absorb heat from the converter and friction surfaces. Letting your Nissan idle for 10 or 15 minutes in the driveway is not doing what you think it is doing. A gentle drive with light acceleration is far more effective at bringing the transmission to proper operating temperature. Now let me address the elephant in the room. Nissan has faced multiple class action lawsuits over their continuously variable transmission reliability. Models like the Altima, Sentra, Rogue, and Pathfinder have all been affected. The company has extended warranties on certain model years and issued technical service bulletins that address specific problems. But here's what that means for you as an owner. If your vehicle is still under the extended warranty, get your transmission inspected at the first sign of trouble. Hesitation, shuddering, whining noises, or jerky acceleration are all red flags. Document everything. Keep records of your fluid changes and any complaints you made to the dealership. If your transmission fails within the warranty period and they try to deny coverage, those records become your best friend. There is a diagnostic trick some Nissan technicians use. I want to share it with you. The continuously variable transmission, or CVT, has a learning function that adapts to your driving style over time. If your transmission is acting up, sometimes the learned parameters become corrupted or cause problems. A transmission reset, performed by disconnecting the battery for a period and letting the vehicle computer relearn from scratch, can sometimes improve behavior. This is not a fix for a mechanically damaged transmission. But if your vehicle is shifting strangely or feels off, try the reset before you assume the worst. Just know that after the reset, the transmission will need several hundred miles of normal driving to fully relearn your habits. Let me now talk about something that affects all automatic transmissions but carries extra weight when it comes to Nissans. Never drive through deep water. Your transmission has a vent that allows it to equalize pressure as the internal components heat up and cool down. This vent is your transmission's way of breathing. When you drive through water that is deep enough to reach that vent, you are inviting moisture into the system. Water and transmission fluid do not mix. When they do, the fluid takes on a milky appearance and loses its lubricating properties almost immediately. In a continuously variable transmission, water contamination is especially devastating because it affects the friction characteristics that the belt and pulley system depends on. I have seen transmissions fail within hours of water intrusion. By the time the owner realized what happened, the damage was irreversible. Here's another mistake I see constantly. Resting your hand on the gear selector while driving seems harmless. But that constant pressure, even if slight, is transmitted through the linkage to the internal components. Over time, this can wear out bushings, shift forks, and valve body components. Your hand belongs on the steering wheel, not on the gear selector. Make your shift, then let go. It is a simple habit to break, and breaking it could save you from premature transmission problems. The parking brake is another area where Nissan owners frequently make mistakes. When you park on an incline and simply put the transmission in park without using the parking brake, you place all the stress of holding the vehicle in place on the parking pal. The parking pal is a small metal finger inside the transmission that locks into a gear to prevent movement. It is not designed to hold the full weight of your vehicle, especially on a steep hill. Over time, this habit can wear down the pal and the teeth it engages with. Eventually, you might find that your vehicle rolls even when the transmission is in park. Always engage the parking brake before shifting into park. This takes the load off the parking pal and extends the life of your transmission. I want to address the practice of switching the car off before fully engaging park. Some drivers are in such a hurry that they turn the key or push the button while still in drive or neutral. Most modern Nissan vehicles have safety features that prevent you from removing the key unless the transmission is in park. But repeatedly doing this can still cause problems with the shift interlock mechanism and the transmission control module. Always make sure the vehicle is completely stopped, the transmission is fully in park, and the parking brake is engaged before you turn off the engine. It takes an extra 2 seconds and it protects components that are expensive to repair. Running your Nissan on low fuel is another habit that can indirectly affect your transmission. The fuel pump sits inside the fuel tank and relies on the fuel itself to stay cool. When you repeatedly run near empty, the pump works harder and generates extra heat. If the pump fails while you are driving, the engine can stall. If that happens in the middle of a maneuver that requires power, the sudden loss of power can create a dangerous situation. Low fuel also lets sediment that has settled at the bottom of the tank get sucked into the fuel system. That sediment can clog filters and degrade engine performance, which in turn makes the transmission work less smoothly. Keep your tank above a quarter full whenever possible. Ignoring warning lights is perhaps the most common and most costly mistake any driver can make. Your Nissan is equipped with multiple warning systems designed to alert you before small problems become big ones. The transmission temperature light, the check engine light, and the slip indicator are all trying to tell you something. When these lights come on, do not assume they will go away on their own. Get the codes read immediately. Many auto parts stores will do this for free. Understanding what your vehicle is trying to communicate can help you catch issues early when they are still affordable to fix. Let me touch on idling and drive for extended periods. When your transmission is in drive and the vehicle is stationary, the torque converter is still working, fluid is circulating under pressure, generating heat. On a hot day, sitting in traffic or at a long drive-through line, this heat builds up fast. Your transmission cooler is designed for driving, not sitting still. The airflow through the radiator and cooler is minimal when you are not moving. Shifting into neutral reduces the load on the torque converter and allows the fluid to circulate more freely without generating as much heat. If you find yourself stopped for more than a minute or two, consider shifting into neutral and engaging the parking brake. Cold weather presents its own challenges for Nissan continuously variable transmissions, CVT. The transmission fluid thickens when it is cold, which makes it harder to flow through the narrow passages in the valve body and around the pulleys. This increased viscosity creates drag and can cause the transmission to behave sluggishly until it warms up. Driving aggressively before the fluid reaches operating temperature puts tremendous strain on the belt and pulleys. They are trying to grip each other through thick, cold fluid that is not providing optimal friction characteristics. Give your transmission at least a few minutes of gentle driving before you ask it to perform at full capacity. This is especially important if your vehicle has been sitting overnight in freezing temperatures. When your Nissan gets stuck in snow or mud, your instinct might be to rev the engine and spin the wheels. That is one of the worst things you can do to a continuously variable transmission. The belt is designed to transfer power smoothly across a range of engine speeds. When you rev to high revolutions per minute with the wheels stuck and not moving, the belt is essentially slipping against the pulleys under maximum load. The heat generated in these situations is extreme. I have seen transmissions destroyed in a matter of minutes by drivers who kept gunning the engine trying to get unstuck. Instead, try rocking the vehicle gently between forward and reverse. Use sand, cat litter, or floor mats under the tires for traction. If you cannot get free with gentle effort, call for help rather than risk destroying your transmission. Many Nissan owners ask me about using additives or treatments to extend transmission life. Here is my honest answer. The fluid Nissan specifies for your continuously variable transmission is carefully formulated. It contains all the friction modifiers, detergents, and protective compounds the system needs. Adding aftermarket products can actually disrupt this carefully balanced chemistry. Some additives are designed for traditional automatic transmissions and can interfere with the way your continuously variable transmission operates. Unless a specific additive is recommended by Nissan or your trusted mechanic, leave it alone. Fresh, clean, factory-specified fluid is the best thing you can do for your transmission. Parking in direct sunlight for extended periods is something most people never think about. But the heat from the sun does more than make your interior uncomfortable. It heats the fluids under your hood, including your transmission fluid. Over time, this repeated heating and cooling breaks down the fluid and can dry out seals and gaskets. If you have the option, park in the shade or use a sunshade. This protects not just your transmission, but your paint, your tires, and your interior components. It is a small consideration that can have meaningful, long-term benefits. Let me finish with perhaps the most important advice I can give you. Know your vehicle. Understand how it sounds, how it shifts, how it responds to your inputs. When something changes, give it your attention. That slight hesitation when accelerating, that new whine you hear at highway speeds, That occasional shudder when coming to a stop, these are all signals that something is changing inside your transmission. Catching problems early, before they cascade into catastrophic failure, is the key to avoiding those massive repair bills. Maintain your transmission fluid according to the schedule that makes sense for your driving conditions, not just what the manual says. Use only the fluid Nissan specifies. Treat the transmission with respect, and it will serve you well for many years. Abuse it, ignore the warning signs, and you will learn the hard way why Nissan continuously variable transmissions have developed the reputation they have. Understanding these principles separates informed owners from those who end up stranded on the side of the road with a $5,000 repair bill. Your Nissan is a sophisticated piece of engineering. The continuously variable transmission, when properly maintained and treated with care, can deliver excellent fuel economy and smooth performance for well over 100,000 miles. But it requires respect, it requires attention, and it requires you to avoid the mistakes we have discussed today. Take this knowledge and put it into practice. Your wallet and your vehicle will both thank you.